Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the legal show with me, Ajaz Ali, on Ramadan Radio Wolverhampton, 87.9 FM. You can also listen to us on Facebook. We are live on Facebook on Ramadan Radio Wolves. Search for us there. Also on Instagram, and I believe we are also live on YouTube. Today I have two guests with me. In fact, if Ash arrives, there'll be three. Firstly, we have a young lady who's doing well in the legal sphere at the moment. Her name is Maruk Ahmed. She specializes in family law, and from that, I believe you'll understand that our topics today are family law, and the second topic we'll be covering is immigration law. Being the last show of Ramadan, I thought I'll go back to the roots and start giving a bit more information on legal topics that are relevant now and today. Assalamu alaikum, Maruk, and welcome to the show.
Walaikum salam. Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm good. Yeah. I'm good, trying to enjoy the last days of Ramadan.
How's it been?
It's been good. It's flown by.
It has.
It really has flown by. I don't know where the time has gone, but alhamdulillah, it's gone well.
That's good.
Compared to last year, considering last year we were in a full lockdown.
That's correct. So this year, although we have been in a lockdown, I think it has been slightly different and maybe a bit easier because we're slightly more used to it, maybe.
Yeah. I think last year it was more fear of the unknown because we'd never been through it before, whereas this year we sort of know how it goes. We were prepared and we knew what we were doing, so everyone was a bit more comfortable.
Yeah, I agree. Now, Maruk, today, the reason for you being here is to help our listeners understand, and viewers on Facebook, etc., and understand, are there any changes in the family law, since, since the first lockdown? Mm-hmm. Are there anything that people should be aware of? Is there anything that we can assist our viewers and listeners, try and make a difference to them, to their lives, to make things easier for them. Mm-hmm. So are you aware of any recent legal changes?
Legal changes, the law has not massively changed apart from, say, cohabitation agreements and separated parents and handling children through a pandemic. So say, for example, two parents are separated, one child resides with mom or dad. Mm-hmm. How do you facilitate contact with the other parent when you can't mix households?
Yeah.
There was a recent change in regards to that, allowing that two parents who are not living together are able to facilitate contact. So that was a provision that was amended in order for the child to receive their love and attention from both parents. In regards, what I've noticed as a massive shift between now and, say, 2 years ago is, I know everybody talks about it, but it's the domestic violence. And it is the abuse, emotional abuse, the trauma, the narcissistic abuse that people have been suffering through. And because they are isolated,
they can't reach out.
Yeah. Then you throw into the works, stigma and shame. And I don't want to say anything to anyone just in case my family find out. And you're locked indoors. It intensifies it even more.
Yeah, right? I had the same fear last year during the first pandemic. Pandemic is that thunder?
Yeah,
wow.
It is. Bit of dramatic music in the background.
I know. Yeah, talk about separation and divorce, and you get thunder. God doesn't like it. So yeah, I had a similar fear. Also, with the emotional abuse, and I ended up doing a couple of shows on family law. On I had a couple of guests from different charities to see if, to make people aware that there is help out there. So
And as well, I think it's really important within ethnic groups as well that there is a massive stigma when it comes to, if I speak about my issues, it means I'm weak. If I ask for help, it means that I've failed.
yeah,
However, I have to, and I always say this to clients, and I always say this to people, that asking for help means that you are willing to make it work.
yeah,
And the family court is there not to end things. It's not to create a divide. It's not to completely, ruin the relationship. Nobody wants to initiate legal proceedings when it comes to family. Nobody does.
Well, if you look at the divorce law, moving aside from anything else, going on the back of what you've just said, even when it comes down to divorce, even then they give you time to reconcile.
Yeah.
Even then they give you, first of all, they ask you that you should try and mediate.
Yeah.
And then, between the two decrees, you have 6 weeks, 6 weeks and a day.
Yeah.
Again, in that time period, it's, time to, if you can, if you want to reconcile. Bit like, I suppose, in Islam, the 3 talaqs.
Yeah.
Similar type of thing. You don't actually have to give all 3 at the same time. You can give one as a warning.
Yeah.
Then, the next one doesn't have to happen.
Yeah.
But if it is going to happen, it could be, further down the line, years down the line.
Yeah. I think people are very, very surprised when they approach me for legal advice, and they ask, they say, Mara, can we go to court straight away? And I'm like, it's not that easy.
Yeah.
We can't just waiver an application to court without you even attempting. You have to actually go to a mediation service, unless you're exempt. You have to go and mediate.
They obviously get a politer response from you than me. My response is, Judge, mera koi taya nahi lagda.
I'm not quite at your level yet, Ajaz. Once I get that confidence, you can say it for me. No, completely though.
Well, those who know me will know that that's the way I am.
Give me about 10 years, hopefully I'll get there. And if anyone gives me any trouble, I'll send them
my way. Send them my way.
But and people are unaware that when it comes to legal proceedings, it's not that easy to just make an application to court. You have to try and mediate and make a resolution. And just because you're asking for legal advice doesn't mean we're going straight to court.
No.
Right? It means right now, this situation isn't working. You can't reach an agreement. So let's get a third party in. Someone unbiased, a professional, that can come in and help resolve the situation between yourselves. And especially with family law, again, I cannot stress enough that I completely empathise with the fact that there are a lot of emotions involved. There's a lot of feelings involved. You've got partners, relationships, children. You've got people that are isolated, that have been through abuse, that have been through previous emotional abuse as well, and physical abuse, even worse. And to have someone there that can offer you legal advice, not just as a off the cuff, this is how it is. If you like it, great. If you don't, see you later. It's difficult. It's difficult to hear that when you're in a vulnerable position.
It is.
But to know that when you are receiving that information, the courts and the family courts always act in, if there are children involved, in the child's best interest.
Yeah, always. Yeah.
Or in the client's best interest. And in order to eliminate all safeguarding concerns, it's just about making everyone safe, comfortable, and you're entitled to what you are owed.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, every time someone asks me on the topic of children, I always say, well, it's not about you.
Yeah.
It's not about you. It's not about the father. It's not about the mother.
Yeah.
It's about the child. So if you think that, I'm not allowed to see my child, how can she stop me from seeing my child? Or how can he stop me from seeing my child? The court's not going to say, oh, yeah, you want to see your child, you can see your child. The court's going to say, well, what's in the best interest of the child? They will obviously get Kafkas out. They will obviously get the reports done by Kafkas to see, well, is there any danger to the child?
For those who don't know, Kafkas is a separate organisation that works alongside the courts when it comes to helping the children. We have Kafkas involved quite heavily in the decision making.
Yeah, definitely. Kafkas is a vital part of the legal system, really. But I have to say, sometimes I feel they don't always get it right. Yeah, but you know.
But that's what your legal representative is there for.
Therefore,
right?
yeah.
That's what, if someone feels that Kafkas hasn't got it right, that is where they go to their legal representative and they say, look, this is how I feel, this is why I feel this way. Can we do something about it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've seen occasions where, for instance, in fact, someone phoned me up. They said, my wife is currently in a refuge with the children. She wants to come back, but the social services are saying, yeah, you can go back, but if you go back, we're keeping the children.
Yeah.
Now, so my answer to that was, well, my question to him was at the time was, right, why is that then? Have you been violent towards her or the children? No. Okay. Has she accused you of being violent? I don't know. I said, I think you better check with her.
Yeah.
Because obviously she's gone away. Whether he was telling the truth or not, who knows. But yeah, so the situation there was quite that. Yeah, she wanted to come back. Obviously, they had an argument. Maybe they did get violent. Maybe it did, and now maybe she thinks, "Oh, let's give it another try." But it's not that easy. You got to think twice before striking someone.
Yeah, and I also think as well, it's a person that you referred over to me the other day. It was very difficult because when you instruct a legal representative and you're midway through your legal procedure and you've got a hearing in 2 days' time and you quickly ask someone to represent you and you've represented yourself, there's already been so much work done and evidence that have been shown.
And maybe that evidence is not what your representative would have put forward.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, you put the representative in an awkward position.
Yeah. So I stress that if you even have an inkling that you do wish to initiate legal proceedings, or you need some legal advice, or you just need some help, or just need to know what you're allowed to do or what you can do, because it is very difficult. If you're not in the field, you hear all sorts of horror stories and people make their own assumptions, which is far from the reality. So don't be afraid to ask for help, firstly. And secondly, have reassurance that the family law is private. It is the court that is very, very strict on privacy, because they understand that family matters. You have a right to privacy, and you have a right to know that whatever happens in that courtroom and whatever happens in your case is strictly within the family courts and your representatives. No other person. That's why there's no jury. There's no one else in the family court. It's a very safe and private environment.
Yeah, it's there to help you.
Yeah.
It's not there to make to victimize you. It's there to help you, and generally, what the court is after is a fair decision, not necessarily. You see, I say Asian people, but I think old people. Sometimes they feel because they've not had their way, they don't want the other person to, have any rights over anything.
Yeah.
I mean, recently I've been asked about, my wife's left me. Now you like this? My wife left me. He got married recently. About 2 years ago, he got married, and from abroad. She came over. Now they've been having issues since she's been over. Really, he was previously married with children, so I guess it's hard to accept the other children in the house.
So the the children from the previous marriage are now living with stepmom.
They're coming and going.
Okay.
They're coming and going.
Where were they born? Here? Or?
They're born here. They're in fact, they were, they're quite westernized.
Okay.
Right. But she's quite, she's from a village back in Pakistan.
Okay.
So
what happened to the first wife?
The first wife is still around.
Okay.
They're divorced.
Okay.
But she's still, has obviously, she drops the kids off sometimes or
so they
picks the
co-parent.
kids. Yeah, they do co-parent. But the second wife is finding that hard to digest. So
it's difficult. It's not easy. It's
Yeah.
not easy look, for the court to ask a woman, please can you be okay with your other half's ex-partner
Yeah.
picking up and dropping off? It's not easy.
No.
But this is why I feel like empathy when it comes to these situations is very important, and support. And when you do choose a legal representative, to have that support and empathy and understanding that, do you know what, it's not an easy job.
Yeah.
However, what you're doing isn't about you, it's about the kids.
Absolutely.
And if there are no safeguarding concerns, there should be no reason why a child is deprived of both mom and dad's love. And we see it time and time again that unfortunately the correlation between crime rates and a broken down family home is matches.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So when children that have been seen to have come from abusive homes or families that have been broken end up falling into crime or such things, such activities.
Yeah. Well, they always say a broken home will lead to, the child feels neglected at home. So if the child is neglected at home, the child will go out and look for,
seek that validation from another superior.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Children look up to moms as their nurturer. Children look up to fathers as their provider. And if they're lacking that from one of them, or if they feel like mom's taking me away from dad or dad's taking me away from mom, they're going to go out and they're going to get it somewhere else. You can do it while they're 4, 5, 6, but when this child turns up to be 16,
yeah, absolutely,
and there are problems coming at the door, it's a different situation. And I would never want anyone to think to themselves, why didn't I just put my ego to the side for a year or so back then?
Yeah.
Why couldn't I just do that? Even though it's really, really difficult at the time, you have to look ahead. Because, like I said, when that child grows up and he's 16 or 18, it'll be a different ballgame.
A different ball, and you won't be able to control it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be out of your control.
Yeah,
definitely.
Exactly.
Right. Guys, we'll continue on this topic and we'll also be covering immigration law shortly. I think we have Sejal on Zoom now. Sejal Karavadra, hello.
Hello, how are you all?
It would help if I turn the mic on.
Oh, wonderful. Well done.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Sejal.
How are you all?
Yeah, all good, thank you. All good. Thank you for joining us, Sejal. Some of the listeners might recognize your voice from last year when we did a few sessions on immigration law. So nice to have you back with us.
Thank you for having me.
We'll continue on your topic as well shortly. I think you'll be discussing, leading on, we were talking about family law, I think linked in with it, and I mentioned about someone getting married from abroad. Linked in with it is spousal visas, etc. So I think that might be something that you can, cover what during the pandemic, in current times, what the situation is with obtaining a visa from abroad.
Absolutely.
Right, brilliant. Guys, if anyone else wants to get involved, if you have any questions or any comments even, please feel free to either call the studio on 01902 972 150, or you can WhatsApp text us on 07 440 420 432. Hopefully, where we can help you well, with your legal queries. Right, Maruk, back to you. We've got about, I think, 4 minutes before we go into a break. So, yeah, I had a query come through. I'll just get to it on in relation to family law. The query was to do with marriage as well. It's funny. The reason I decided to do the show with both of you is because I think these two topics, especially with the Asian community, they go hand in hand. Right. The query was, when I can get to it. Right. Someone wants to leave her husband. She's been married to him for 15 years. They tried for children, no children. Maybe then it's a blessing that, if she's looking to leave, that there are no children. If she walks away, what can she leave with? She only had her nikah done, no civil marriage, no assets to her name. He wouldn't let her work. Now that, I won't read the rest of it. And apparently he's been cheating on her for 8 years. Right. This situation to me is actually...
It's very common.
Yes. It's very common because a lot of the Asians, Pakistanis, I would say, I can't comment for everyone else really, but I do come across a lot of Pakistanis, maybe even, people in my circle who have not had a registered marriage. They've not, decided that they've got married in the UK, but not registered that marriage. Now, had they been married abroad, and this is a confusion sometimes people get, they say, well, my such and such got married abroad, he didn't need to register it.
Yeah, because it's legally...
Yeah, it's accepted because it's accepted in
their
that country.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So these people have got married here, just in the car, with the imam, in the mosque, or wherever. And technically, that's not a valid marriage as far as the British legal system is concerned. So where do they stand? Do you... I'll leave the rest to you now.
So...
We've probably got less time than you need, but yeah.
First point is that, okay, they've gotten married, they've had an Islamic marriage. They've had an Islamic marriage. It can only be legally classified as a marriage in this country if you have a civil marriage. So you have the certificate, you have the registrar, and it's in a registered building.
Yeah.
Then it'll be recognised in England as a marriage.
Yeah.
Because they haven't had that done, they would fall under the laws of cohabitee partners.
Yeah.
So they're just cohabiting, right? So they're two partners that live together.
Yeah.
With cohabitees, you have different rights to if you are married. Say, for example, I am married. I've had my nikah.
Tell you what, you save that example.
Okay.
Till we come back after the break.
That's fine.
Guys, again, I urge you to contact us if you have any queries. Text us on 07440 420 432, or you can call the studio after the break on 01902 972 150. Thank you.
I can now. Really faintly though.
welcome back after the break. Welcome back after the break. 5 minutes break went quickly. Right, we were discussing family law, and the question that I proposed to Maruk was of from a young lady who has been married to her husband or partner for 14 years.
15 years,
Was
wasn't
it?
15
Okay,
years.
what's a year between
Come on,
friends?
Ajaz.
What's a year between friends? Right. Okay, 14 or 15 years, whatever it was. Okay, you obviously listened to what I said. I wasn't listening to what I was rambling on about. So yeah, she'd been married for 15 years. However, she'd only had an Islamic nikah, not a civil marriage. She has not worked in that time period. Apparently, he's not let her work. She has no assets to her name. She's basically been the housekeeper, in a sense.
Was she, I know I'm being nitpicky, was she born here?
I do not have that information, but I assume so.
Okay.
I assume so. She's found out that he's been cheating on her for the last 8 years. And
8 years?
Yes, 8 years. Yeah. And now she wants to leave him. She wanted to know what her rights were, both, I suppose, both for the purpose of the finance and also whether, property-wise as well. So if they've been living together, then what rights does she have?
Do you know if their property is jointly owned?
No, just in his name, I believe.
Okay. So we have a couple of issues here and a couple of points. Firstly, we have the point of whether their marriage, their nikah, is considered as a legal marriage and has the same rights as a civil marriage.
Yes.
And as we discussed before the break, we've discussed that if you just have your nikah done with no civil marriage, so your civil marriage is in a registered building with a registrar, with witnesses, etc. If you don't have that, then your marriage isn't considered a legal marriage, which is within England.
Okay.
So then they would fall into cohabitee laws. So two cohabiting partners would be considered as partners that live together but aren't married. They attain different rights to married couples.
Okay.
So we've got that out the way. So even though they've had their nikah done, they're Islamically recognised. If their nikah was done in Pakistan, and they came over here, they would be considered as legal.
They would be considered a legal marriage.
Because in Pakistan, it's registered.
So law of the land dictates over there that it's legal marriage, so they'll be accepted over here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So to get protection in this country, get your civil marriage done.
Absolutely.
Firstly.
Absolutely.
Now, what can she walk away with?
Mm-hmm.
She wants to leave. She's lived in the property. She's found out her husband's been cheating on her. Obviously, she's angry. She's thinking, I wasn't allowed to work, obviously. So there should be some money I'm entitled to. I don't have any money. I completely understand. Legally, if she doesn't, because she's not married, she's not automatically entitled to anything.
To anything.
Unless she has beneficial interest. Now, if they both jointly own the property, then it will come under land law. So she would have beneficial interest in the property.
She would, yes.
But because you just said that it's just him.
Just him, yes.
Legally, she wouldn't be entitled to anything.
Well, now that you mentioned that point, I think you mentioned beneficial interest. Now, again, we don't know this, but had she contributed towards the purchase of the property, whether her name's on it or not, then I suppose she could claim an equitable interest as well.
Yeah. But then we'll be dipping our toes
exactly. Yeah. So that'll be, again, land law, which will, a different topic altogether.
Yeah.
But there may be, depend on ifs, buts and maybes.
And again, say for example, I had someone, because this is how I always think that if someone came to me and proposed a situation in a real life setting, what would I advise? If we started from the beginning, and if someone said to me that, okay, I'm getting mine a garden, but I don't want a civil marriage, what do I do to ensure that I stay protected? Have an agreement.
Yeah.
Have a cohabitation agreement beforehand, which is an agreement between both of you that if, say, for example, one of you walk away, what are you entitled to and what you're not entitled to. There are things to protect
absolutely.
people, but it's only when nobody plans on things breaking down. Nobody wants to go into a relationship that, you know, it's taboo, but it's not that the from a legal standing point of view, it's there to protect you. And if you do know your rights beforehand, you can seek that protection.
Absolutely. So, unfortunately, the in a short form answer to that is really, unless we know further, it looks like you have no rights. Basically, I know it's harsh. It's harsh, but true. Harsh but true. So as much as I'd love to say, you can take him to the cleaners. No, he's obviously played a clever game. Whether he was aware of this at that time or not, that's a different matter. A lot of the times these relationships begin where the parents say, "Oh, we want to get married." The parents arrange it, so it's probably an arranged marriage. Even the parents arrange it. Many of the time it is the girls they're quite sheltered. They've led a sheltered life. They've probably got elder siblings who have been taking control of their life really, and they basically just do what they've been told. And therefore, when put in such a situation, they would not know at the time I need a registered marriage. They just do what the norm is. If the mother and father say jump, they'll jump.
It's a shame though, isn't it? Because I feel like in Asian culture and in our culture, all we do, especially as females, I'm sure as males as well, when we're born straight away get talked about marriage. But then nobody knows their rights when it comes to marriage.
No.
You tell us about all the intricacies.
Can I? Well, I want to move on to another point now, away from this topic actually. Quite a niche area, but I've been asked these questions a few times by various people. So I was just put it forward to you. I'm not saying that you will know the full, obviously being put on the spot. I don't expect you to give me a full answer. But do you know anything or much about adoption in the UK?
I've touched on it.
Right, okay. Well, the question that I've been asked recently, in fact, Sejal, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Right, you might be able to, you might be able to assist here as well. Now, recently, I think 3 phone calls from 3 different people actually talking about adopting people, adopting children. Some of these have been, well, actually all 3 have been, they want to adopt from Pakistan. So my answer has been, look, it's a long process. You have to be certified here first. You have to go through, there's some courses that you'll have to do. I'm answering what I was asking you really, I think. So it's a long process. There's certain courses you'll have to undertake and pass. Then you have to be in touch with some authorities over there who, for instance, there's the Eid Foundation. They in Karachi, I know they do adoption, and people from abroad do adopt from there as well. I think there's a famous some TV presenter, Sarah Khan or someone. She was on one of these TV shows.
Sarah Khan.
So I think she's adopted from there as well. And she was on the TV not so long ago on that, touching on that topic. So it is possible, I believe, but it's the hoops you have to jump through are immense. You have to be vetted, etc. So that's the point I was trying to get to, and I think I've addressed it myself, unless either one of you want to add to that.
I think from my standpoint, when it comes to adoption, so there are private proceedings and there are care proceedings.
Yeah.
And this will be dealt with in care proceedings. So children that are going through care proceedings that are with social services, etc. But that's usually based for children residing in this country already. I think when it comes to adoption from abroad, it's more immigration, and then when they come here and get that citizenship.
Again, on that point, you have to be certified before going and getting the child, and once the child is here, you're assessed once more. Your suitability, obviously, it's still for the best interest of the child. Whatever the situation, anything to do with family law, the child's best interest is paramount.
Sajal, have you dealt with this before?
I've had a couple of cases where we've had the adoptions done, not from Pakistan, it's been from other countries. But the first thing, the adoption has to be legal in that country itself. And in most cases, unless it's from unless it's recognised by UK law or it's under the terms of the Hague Convention, it's called a de facto adoption. And in those situations, the adoptive parent has to have lived abroad with the child for a period of 18 months. And that's where the problem arises, because most people...
You're giving up your life here to live with a child over there. So it's a tough one.
It's very difficult. So it's, in a lot of cases, people aren't in a position to go through the processes that you'd have to for immigration purposes.
Yeah, it's a tough one there.
That is difficult. So you have to... If you want to adopt a child from abroad, you have to go to where that child is residing, live with them for 18 months, prove that.
If it's what's called a de facto adoption, then that's one of the things that happens. If it's not recognised by UK law, and if it isn't a part of the Hague Convention, then you'd have to look at whether it meets the requirements of a de facto adoption. And if it does, which a lot of cases do, but both parents would need to have resided abroad for a period of time with that child.
I'm quite glad that people are actually thinking of adoption nowadays. There was a certain taboo on that even at one stage I think in the Pakistani culture at least.
Really?
Well, people they wanted their own children. They didn't want to adopt someone else's child. But the things are changing. Things are changing for the better. I'm all for it. I'm all for adoption. So I think if someone can afford a child, but why not? Yeah. You're giving a child a life, which a child, what life would they have in a child, these homes, so to speak. So
and bit of a tangent, but I also have a pre-assumption from a lot of people that come forward and say that the courts just want to take my kid away from me. They don't want me to have contact with my kid. They don't. That's far from it, because it's having a child go into care proceedings is the very last resort. We don't want that. That is everything. We save it from happening. First and foremost, it's contact with birth parents. And then if that can't be done, then it falls into that. Yeah,
absolutely. Right, let's move topics again, Sajal. We've got 10 minutes left, so I'd like to cover immigration law in a bit more depth. Let's start with spouse visas. Any updates on spouse visas? What's the latest on spouse visas, with all this furlough, etc., and, during this pandemic? Do you have any updates for us?
Updates. It's been the same situation for a while now, but a lot of people don't know. We get a lot of people coming to us asking that I've been put on furlough, I only get 80% of my earnings, is that still going to be okay? And as long as you're able to prove the fact that you're on furlough, there are concessions in place so that they can take into account what your salary was prior to you going into furlough. And if you met the 18,600 requirement, if you're just bringing your spouse over, then that can still work. And that also works in terms of people that are self-employed and have been getting grants. They can be counted towards your earnings as well. So the Home Office have for a change, made some concessions which are in favour of the applicant themselves. Most people that come to me also have been asking, are the offices open? Are we able to go and do appointments and have our biometrics taken? Yes. Majority of the countries have all their offices open. So once an application's been submitted, you're able to book an appointment, take your documents to the offices, have your fingerprints taken. In some cases, when there is a lockdown, they will contact you if you've got an appointment booked in that particular office and rearrange it to when they do open up. Mm-hmm. Decisions are taking a little bit longer as well in some cases, because obviously the Home Office have got less people working when people are off sick, etc. So decisions can take longer than the normal 3-month period, but it's not exceptionally long period of time. So there's nothing to worry about. You should get your applications in as soon as you possibly can before any further changes come in. Especially with Brexit having happened, the Home Office are now going to be looking at changes that they want to make to the immigration rules. Some changes they've already started making. Mm-hmm. So if you are in a position to apply, I would do it now before further changes do come into place.
Right, okay. So with the in-country applications, are there any updates there, or are there any, I don't know, as far as documents is concerned, how do people get their documents to the Home Office?
In terms of the documents to the Home Office, there's 2 different ways of doing it now. Before, what used to happen is an application would be submitted on paper and all the documents would go with that application form. As most people are probably aware now, all applications virtually are actually online. So you complete the application online. Once you've paid for that application, you then go through to their booking system and you book an appointment for your biometrics. When you're booking your appointment for the biometrics, you've got 2 options. You can either upload the supporting documents onto their portal, so it gets uploaded before your biometrics appointment and then submitted to the Home Office that way. Or the other option is that you take all the documents with you to your biometrics appointment and let the Home Office do the hard work and scan it all into their system. But you should be very careful. If you're having the Home Office scan everything for you, please make sure you keep a copy, because sometimes we get the Home Office coming back to us, they email us to say this document hasn't been submitted or that document hasn't been submitted.
I think we were talking about something like this morning, weren't we?
Yes, absolutely. Just this morning that happened. Yeah. And that's the case for applications from abroad as well, because the case that we had was a case from abroad.
Yeah.
So they put in an application for a spouse visa. The sponsor from the UK had submitted the documents here in the UK, as you're allowed to do. And they'd failed to scan all the documents in. But thankfully, we were able to see, because we had a bundle of documents at the office, the copies of everything that was sent to the office here in Birmingham, and we were able to see that all the documents were actually there, and therefore when we appeal, we're going to be in a much better position to hopefully get it overturned before going to court.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, all being well. That's what it's looking like. Although a bit of an update on that. I think the client's going to get back to me on that one. They might want to reapply because they want to have it done sooner.
That's the problem with appeals at the moment. That's the thing that's taking the most time, I think, with immigration, because when lockdown initially happened last year, all the courts actually shut down. So there were hundreds of appeals that were already due to be heard during March, April, May time, which just got put in the backlog. So at the moment, cases getting to court, it's taking 6 to 8 months for things to actually be heard at court. Yeah. So in some cases, it is much quicker to put a new application in.
I've also been told by people that even with biometrics appointments, they've been charged ridiculous amounts of money for this to book the appointment. It used to be over a year ago, I suppose. It used to be £19.20, but now they're charging ridiculous money. I think £112. Someone said to me that's the cheapest one they could find.
Yes, a call centre they're working out is about £110, £112. If you book one of the enhanced centres, you can get some appointments for about £71.50, which has recently increased from £69, I think.
What's an enhanced centre?
An enhanced centre The only difference that I found, okay, an enhanced centre it's not an actual building itself. It's sometimes at a library, it's sometimes at a government building where they've got a couple of people there doing the admin side of things and scanning things through biometrics. The call centre is one which has been set up solely to do these sorts of appointments.
Oh, right,
But
okay.
But the difference is you pay £110, £112 for one of these appointments at a call centre, and that doesn't include your document scanning. You'd have to pay an extra amount for that. Whereas at the enhanced centres, the £71.50 actually includes document scanning as well.
Wow.
So I personally try and
paying an
get
extra
my clients booked on
pound.
those.
Yeah.
But the trick is, and I probably shouldn't be saying it on radio, but what I've done and what we're doing at Kenneth Jones is trying to get the appointments booked so that they're done at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning when they get released.
Right. Oh,
If you book it at that time, you can sometimes, only sometimes, end up getting a free appointment at some of the centres. And if you can't get a free one, you get slightly cheaper ones at that time. That's what we're trying to do for the clients that come to us at Kenneth Jones. And
working all hours, are you?
Sorry?
Working all hours.
We are working all hours. Trying to do the best for our clients. It costs enough in terms of the application fees, which are well over £1,000. Then you've got the immigration health surcharge, which has gone up considerably last October. So although it's a small amount of saving that you can get for your client, you've got to do the best that you can for them because it's such a high cost that the Home Office have in terms of processing.
I have another gripe with the Home Office on that regard, especially with the applications from abroad. They, we tell the clients that this is the cost, but it's never that amount. Whenever they pay by card, it turns out that they're taking the funds in a foreign currency, then it's been relayed back into dollars, then dollars to pounds, or what have you, and it ends up they end up paying a considerable, like £200-300 more than they actually envisaged.
Yeah, this is a really, really bad thing that the Home Office do. You'd think that being a British application, you'd actually pay in pounds.
Pounds, yeah.
Exactly how much is got to be paid, but it's always in a foreign currency. I've never seen it come up in pounds. It's always in a foreign currency. That we've always just got to advise the client that it's going to depend on the exchange rate on the day that it goes through, and also what they're going to face, especially if they're using a UK card provider, then it's going to have a bank charge as well, usually, because most banks charge you for having a transaction done in a foreign currency.
Yeah.
So the Home Office do need to look at that and see if they can do anything with regards to that, because it can end up being a couple of £100 more than what we actually tell them the application fee is. And vice versa, if they're getting a refund, for example, of an immigration health surcharge, if an application hasn't been successful, it always seems to be £100, £200 less.
Yeah. Right, I'll stop you there now. We're running out of time. Thank you for that immigration update, and thank you, Maruk, also for the coming on and spending the hour of your time to try and educate and assist our guests. Our viewers and listeners. I was looking at Arsh here. Arsh is here now as well. Assalamu alaikum, Arsh, okay?
Hi.
Ready for his show. I hope you're feeling better from last week. Right, guys, this is the last show for during Ramadan. So Eid Mubarak in advance to all of you guys from all of us here. And inshallah, we'll be here again at some point soon.